exiled from China. All the followers of this Uncle Tom was exiled to an island called Formosa, which is now called Taiwan. And you can notice when you read the news that Taiwan is a big ally of the United States, like Hong Kong is and like other places. They're very friendly with them. They sell them weapons, they almost give them weapons. But anyway, that is still part of China. They represented China in the UN up until 1973 when Nixon went to China. When he went to China, they said, why should a small island, or technically a big island, but an island, represent all of China in the UN? That's when China joined the UN. Okay, that's when the open door policy to China developed. The open door policy to China developed because during the so-called Cold War, China had, by 1964 and what have you, China had developed some differences with the Soviet Union at that time. So the Soviet Union was Russia. Okay, Russia was the first communist state. Okay, when they had the communists, when the Bolsheviks took over in Russia in 1917 and 18, they had the Red Army, and the white folks over here supported the White Army. And the White Army fought the Red Army, and the Red Army won. Then after World War II, you skip up some years, you have this great Soviet Union, the size, you know, I mean, it's 1/6 of the earth or something, 8 time zones, 6 million something square miles. And the US is only 3 million something square miles, including Alaska. Remember, when the people think about the US, they think about the continental United States and not Alaska. Alaska, they bought from Russia, but Alaska is big. It's 1/4 the size of continental United States. So when you add that on, the US is still only 3 million something square miles. Now, believe it or not, Canada is 3,800,000 some square miles, but it's mostly ice. It's a big place. Okay, now you take Russia, the biggest, and you get down to number 3, you get countries that fall together, all have 3 million square miles, something like that. United States, Brazil, and China. They're all within that, different hundreds of thousands, they're all within that 3. So they're all big. You know, they're all big. And they're all big in their area. In South America, Brazil is like big. If you had a Venezuelan passport in those days and a Brazilian passport, you was in. It was like a US passport. It was big. But anyway, during the 1930s, there was something called the Long March. It's a great epic. It's TV series on it. You could just look at, probably just dial up Long March, and I bet you'll see TV series, this series, that series. Every year they celebrate the Long March. The Long March started when Chairman Mao now takes over the Communist Party, because the Russians was saying, we got to use these skills to do this war. Remember, their success. Okay, I'll just give a few minutes. The Russian Revolution was an industrial revolution. You know, big cities and all that, industry, 1917 and all that. Okay, the Chinese Revolution was a peasant revolution. Peasant revolution means the whole country is full of peasants. And there's a few lines, Shanghai and all that, of industrial cities, but mostly in the zillions. The Chinese is agricultural, right? And it's a big peasant revolution. So it's the big landlords that own all the land, and the peasants work for them. So in China, it was not like we have a big industrial revolution against the industrialists. It's that in each area, in each base area, they have the big landlords. And they entice the people to rebel against the landlords, and then they divide up the landlord's land with the peasants. Hey, they say, Alhamdulillah, right? So then the peasants get a chance to run their own land. This is our land we're working. You see? So in China, also the defense, in 1935, they had undermined Chairman, 1933 and 34, they had undermined Chairman Mao Zedong. And they had another guy they were supporting. They said, look, you got to have these kind of defenses against the Kuomintang. And they put up those type of defenses, and they just obliterated them. The enemy, Chiang Kai-shek, the Uncle Tom. Remember, the Uncle Tom got airplanes and everything. And the Red Army don't have nothing but military, low-level military equipment. So this is the greatest epic in modern Chinese history. What happens is they start out with, I don't know what kind of numbers, but there are several base areas where the Chinese have established themselves around in China. So these base areas is areas where they run everything. The main Chinese army is Revolutionary Army, is attacked by the Kuomintang. At that time, the leadership shifts to Chairman Mao Zedong. Chairman Mao Zedong develops all of this guerrilla warfare and all of that, those tactics, all of that is developed and written about. Just like we have all these writings right here, you can tell that they're writings from something. These are detailed writings on the same style as Chairman Mao did, except it's for us. When they say the Chinese communism, right, with Chinese characteristics, we say Islam with Negro characteristics. In other words, they have communism, but it's the way they want to do it. They don't allow nobody to come and say, you do it this way, you do it that way. So this long march is an attack by the whole army of Chiang Kai-shek. And this long march is a defensive battle over 6,000 miles. Let's say they start off with, I forget the numbers change. Let's say they start off with 1 million men and they finish up with 25,000. Something like that. Don't worry about the numbers, because each thing you read, the numbers are a little different, but they all sound the same. This is a defensive march all over China. They start off with hot weather uniforms in the lowlands, and they go through swamps. You can't imagine the type of swamps they go through. They go through grasslands where horses sink. They lose, well, anyway, they finish up with maybe 100,000 men, maybe 50,000 men, but they survive. It's the thing, they survive. And they have great epic battles all along the way. The greatest would be the the four rivers crossing, where they have to cross a river 4 times and then back and then doom and then doom. And we use those same tactics, except they for us. We have our own 4 rivers crossings where we attacked by boss man. You got to remember, they're a revolutionary army surrounded by with Chiang Kai-shek running everything. Later on, the Japanese invade. You see what I mean? Manchuria, and changed the name to Manchukuo. They did some tough stuff. Every year they celebrate because the Long March built modern China. No school kid don't know the songs. Is everywhere, and that builds the character, because they went from the highest mountains. Can you imagine a freezing to death going across high mountain ranges, and then they are later burning up in lowlands, and the animals is dying? Man, this was like, okay, the Long March is new to everybody else, but we started off. I'll show you our earliest literature from the late 70s and early 80s always dealt with the Long March. That we looked at America, and that's where the protracted struggle come from. This is protracted. He said this is going to be a protracted struggle. We looked at America. We had instantaneous movements popping up, and we came to the conclusion that ain't going to work. Negroes pop up in liberation struggles, and they gone tomorrow. I mean, the boss man just said, oh, there's some niggas over there. We go over there and blow them up or shoot them or take them to jail. Whatever they want to do, right? And they do it. They have done that. So while we was in prison, we was outlining all of this, what we're going to be dealing with. Because prison was not a prison for me. It was a study period. When I came home in 1980, all of this was basically worked out. Not all of it, but what I'm saying is the idea, Long March. Okay, Long March means it's an epic struggle. Oh, here we are. Now, we've had enough time to tussle with boss man the first couple of fights we had with him, and exile and all that. We done already boxed with him to know where he coming from and how he gonna use. So we have time to think, what is he gonna use? Encirclement, suppression, we always use that. Surround them and suppress. Encirclement and suppression, that's what they did with them. Not only encirclement, suppression, but sabotage, infiltration. In other words, when you look on paper, the revolution or transition we're talking about will be technically almost impossible, right? We're going to do a movement inside of the United States, in the house, working on top of the ground, not secret, on top of the ground, with them having everything against you. They got all the laws against you. They got all the Negroes against you. And you see, right? Tell me one group that's with us. One group, just one. One group. Negroes, Arabs, anybody? Iranians, anybody? Absolutely nobody. Okay. To other people, they would say, man, that's a big surprise. It's absolutely no surprise. It's not a surprise because we had time to think about it and go over it and over it. And just imagine you're in prison. Of course, I'm the imam now. I'm writing lectures. I'm writing the lectures that we do right now. I'm writing them in prison. If you go through them same talks, they basically the same. This is with modern upgrade. Why? Because of protracted struggle. This is a long time. So we knew that all the time. Okay, and now we have to use all of those things from their time, but translated into our time. Because we have to. Do you know the main thing why America is trying to start a new Cold War with China? Because China, for all them things, has China won, and everybody is saying China has won. Okay, here's the thing. What's the big sin that China did? The U.S. came over, they said in the mid-'80s, they had old Deng Xiaoping. Now, Deng Xiaoping was with Chairman Mao, and they had a long history together. The main big guys of Chairman Mao was Chairman Mao, Chou En-lai, and all them guys. They was big on one side. On the other side was Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping was the one that said, getting rich is glorious. And Chairman Mao used to say about him and them, you're going around looking for the capitalist voters. The capitalist voters are in the Communist Party. He was talking about Deng Xiaoping. Chairman Mao was saying that we have to build. Deng Xiaoping had a saying, it don't make no difference whether the cat is black or white, long as it catch mice. System, don't make no difference. Capitalism, communism, any mixture. That's what the Chinese are doing now. At each time, each one of these guys was perfect. At each time, Deng Xiaoping and Chairman Mao was perfect. When Chairman Mao finished, he hands China to the people, a strong China, unified in the 70s when he passed, but not materially big. Now, when he dies, Deng Xiaoping and his crew, after Guangwo Feng, it's a long story, Deng Xiaoping take over. Everybody in the West knows this is our homeboy. And Deng Xiaoping has a bossy, Chinese laundryman attitude toward the West. Oh, we just want this, that, and the other, bossy. That's Deng Xiaoping to the hilt. Boy, look at he got his game down pat now. Remember, where China is now is because of his policies. So you can't say he wasn't wrong. He was wrong at Chairman Mao's time, but he is right for China. Communism with Chinese characteristics. So what Deng Xiaoping, I'll just tell you why. The reason the white folks in America is mad. If you remember during the 80s, during the 90s, and all of that, and the early 2000s, it was during the period of, there's a book called Deindustrialization of America. Can you punch that book up? Deindustrialization of America. Just so you know it exists. Right. But deindustrialization of America was it's about the Rust Belt now, man. Look at the Rust Belt, man. It's been there for decades. All them big cities, young towns, Ohio, Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit, man. That was the industrial hub of America. Boy, when Negroes run away from Dixie and got up there, they got jobs that, hey, man, technically it was paradise for the Negro in Dixie. I mean, I don't know why we was rebelling in California. Maybe just police brutality. Probably we had got spoiled. We wasn't getting lynched by the white man, but we were just getting shot by him and stuff like that. But I mean, technically in California, we was rolling. In the 60s, all them factories, and all that stuff. But anyway, why is the white man today mad with the Communist Party? Is because they deindustrialized. They sent the Chinese all of their stuff. All the factories are in China, everything. You know, China gets its medicine, America gets its medicine from China. What's wrong with ventilators? Can you imagine who would do that? But here was the thing. They looked around the world, and their study showed that anybody, when they start getting kind of wealthy, they want capitalism. That didn't happen in China. China got big, and they thought the Communist Party would get weak. What did Kishu Murabani? He said 95% of the people in China, right, loved the Communist Party. 95%. And I know at least 11% of the people here are happy with Congress. Some are 9% below, they say, single digits, right? Single digits. The middle class in China has exploded, and the middle class in America has declined. Bad. There's almost no such thing. But here was the crime. The crime is that they didn't convert. The Communist Party kept power. They also demanded the transfer of technology. If you're going to transfer all that work over here, we want to go from ground zero all the way. In other words, we want to go from the rubber, the tires, to the plastic, right, to the push button stuff, the gadgets that we're putting in these engines. We want to have all the technology. You know the way now modern is computer-driven cars, right? Everything is computer. Computer go bad, okay? We want all of that. So that usually in Africa and Asia, the people just let them transfer the work to those people, but not the technology. So China beat them on all. Not only they beat them, but they copied everything. Remember, for several decades, if you wanted the only time I cannot get Chinese bootleg movies is now. That just ended a few months back. I don't know if they still have them, but my connection, Tony, a Chinaman, they finished up a few months ago. Remember all them late, it's all from China. All what nice plastic covers and everything, and I would just copy the covers and copy the thing, and then we had all the modern stuff. China don't have to do that anymore. China copied all your American tape CD. The Americans, look, can you imagine? They'd make all these big blockbuster movies, and they'd send the CDs, DVDs around the world, and the Chinese got them there already. You want, pay $5? No $5. How about $2? Oh, that's much, $1. You know, to the vendors. You think the companies that own the video shops all around, they're gonna pay, you can't tell the difference between the Chinaman stuff and the American stuff, right? Who cares? And you see what a video in America, they have in a store, it'll say $20. 20, what? $20. And Bossy, he said, you get $4. Oh, hard money, $3. Me and you, are we together? $3. And you can pay $20 down at the white man's distributor, right? The Chinese ate them alive. When Donald Trump said they ate our lunch, that's true. But it's all legal. It's all what the Chinese government don't control all of that. It just whoever do it, right? It just seems well organized and disciplined and high quality and all of that. The Chinese snuck up on the boss man. It's like when I was overseas. The first time I saw it was when I was in Algeria, and I looked at, there was a lot of Japanese traveling. At that time, it was the Japanese. And the Japanese was, they had lost World War II, but Japan was getting ready to kick some behind. It's like 71. And I looked around, and when I went to Black Africa, they had a squeaky Land Cruiser. It was called Toyota Land Cruiser. Toyota Land Cruiser. But it squeaked and everything. It ran pretty good. And they had them big Leland Land Rovers. Remember them old type Land Rovers that you saw in all the jungle pictures? That was the English made. Look at the Japanese Land Cruiser 10 years later. Boy, that boy is big fat tires. Hey, it run like you start it up, it's ready to go, and it'll run till you run out of gas. Okay. In those days, it was the Japanese. And so I was looking at the Japanese, they was bowing. I said, boy, this white man is in trouble. I used the term, and I told it to black nationalists too. I said, the Japanese are whipping this white man up close. They done ducked down and they right on under him. I said, see, the white man ain't never lost nothing. So he don't know what a sucker looked like when you done busted him up, right? And he don't, man, he didn't. And look, by the 80s, the Japanese had just destroyed almost this boy, but he had one more punch in him left. But think about Japan in the 1980s and early 1990s. Everything you bought, the Japanese for a while was buying up everything belonged to America. Then the white man had one more punch, but he don't have that punch is left. He don't have it in the Chinaman. So Deng Xiaoping paid that. Don't be bad to boss man. Oh, just smile. Oh, we Chinaman. So, and he was doing the Chinese laundryman on them. That's what we call it. They got a lot of laundrymen in California. They used to do the laundry, you know. Now they own everything, but that's all right. That's their game. Oh, yeah, you know. You think the Jews are slick. Boy, look, the Chinamans and the Japanese, them Orientals, man, they got their game down. I don't care, all of them got the game down. Cambodians, Vietnamese now, right? They don't care. They get rich, man, all of them. The Asian century is already here. They had already busted boss man up. But his greatest sin was they didn't become communist. The Communist Party is stronger now than it ever was. And now the white man is mad. He's mad, but he's mad and it's too late. Let me put it this way. On the history, we're on the right side of history. We're on when we try to figure out whether this is it or is it the next go round, no, this is it. This is the global transition that everyone has been waiting for. All the sides are lining up, right? Okay, in this TikTok box, whatever they call this, all that, I don't even know what it is. TikTok app, what's the other stuff, all that. The white folks, like Murabani said, he said the white man is mad, but he don't have no strategy, right? He's mad and they brought in Don to just destroy everything and hope that they can make a strategy off the destruction. It ain't working. It's not working. What it has is lined everybody up. Number one, the U.S. can use phony stuff like Hong Kong. Hong Kong? What? The U.S. is pro-Hong Kong? Hell, the people in Hong Kong, they come out with clubs, they fight the police, They burned down the whole half of Hong Kong, right? Let them try it over here. The U.S. is, we want freedom. Yeah, you go, you see what he did talking about in Portland, anywhere else? You open your mouth, yeah, you light a firecracker, we're going to blow you away. That's America, and America is talking about, oh, free Hong Kong. And they burning up everything and doing everything. So when China brings a law out saying, well, you can't burn down no more and stuff, oh, that's against freedom. The United States is such hypocrites that they are not even hypocrites. We've got to come up with something new. It's ridiculous. And the other Chinese places like Macau, where they have all the gambling casinos, that was a Portuguese possession. Okay, they fine with all the laws that China enacted on everybody else. They just waited a while for Hong Kong, but it's normal. And it ain't no big deal. They just say we're federalizing, you can't do that no more. And the U.S. talking about the Uyghurs in China. Oh, we're for you guys. Okay, anytime the U.S. is for somebody, you got to watch out. Just, you know what? If you don't believe all of what the Chinese say, if you think there's something going on there, get on a damn bus and go down there and see. That's what they say. Go take a look. They said genocide. They said we had a law in China that you can't have but one child. But all the minorities, they said the Uyghurs had 3 million, 4 million people a while back. Now they got 11 million people, so they didn't have those type of restrictions. If it's genocide, right? And then about Muslims, they got other ethnic Chinese, that are Muslims. You ought to see the Arabs and Persians that are going there for big contracts and everything. So if they were so anti-Muslim, and don't forget Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia will scare people like the Chinese to death, like Saudi Arabia did the Russians. You know the Muslims in the southern part of Russia, Chechen. They had all them Salafis going there, and that scared anybody to death. You ain't gonna do that in our neighborhood. You know what I mean? So no, y'all can't do that here. So then it's Saudi Arabia that hijacks those good movements. Same thing in China. They hijacked, you know, they had Uyghurs in the penitentiary down there in Florida, not Florida, down in Cuba, right? They had a few. So you got to watch the Saudi Arabians scaring Chinese. Hey, man, so we trying to get the Chinese a message. Hey, give everybody, whatever you're doing, give everybody a break. Open up new masajid everywhere because them guys is trying to scare you. Not they're trying to, they're scaring you to death. But it's not the Chinese, it's the Saudi Arabians scaring them to death, and then it becomes valid. Like, hey man, they have 2 or 3 of them mess up like they do here. And then they say, hey man, we trying to make a move, so we can't have that here. Right.
Mm-hmm. He wanted to go and fight with ISIS to learn how to fight, to go and make a move against China.
Against China. Yeah, that was his intent. You know, look at some of those things. Do you remember about 15 years ago that we talked about some of those fighters and we took a picture of some of those groups? And one group that was cutting people's head off, the guys was built a certain way. Remember I was saying, look at them necklines, man. And then I said, and look, one guy is wearing gold chains. So remember that? So I said, gold chains, you know when you work out a lot, the white boys have a certain, you know what I mean? Wait a minute, that neckline, that top of the chest, that boy doing, you can tell the exercises they doing. And the Arabs, you say, just a regular day-to-day revolutionary Arab that got one meal a day, you know what I mean, is not going to look like that. He's running around, he might be in shape, but he's not going to look like that. They got to be on a military base. They got to be working out all the time, because to stay like that, you know what I mean, you got to get back to the gym every now and then. And them boys, I was looking, I said, no, man. That boy's chest is sitting up like mine used to a long time ago. I said, them boys they working out in a gym. And then the next one standing next to him got on gold chains, which of course is haram in Islam, and they supposed to be Salafis, don't work. Okay, so we have known all along. That's why we have to put this whole package together. We haven't done that bad a job, because we outlined from very beginning, you know, that this would be a protracted struggle. We outlined in the very beginning it would be temporary gains, you know what I mean, in Egypt and other places. We also outlined that it would be unification, you know what I mean, some strategic unification happening, and then it would be a collective vision, a unified vision, a regional vision we called it. And then that regional vision popped up, you know what I mean? And don't forget strategic alliances. Iran, it used to be by itself. Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Russia, that's a serious, and now Yemen, and then parts, when you look at it, Lebanon, they've had such a bad economy. How they got a bad economy? Okay, Lebanon, did they just, the whole thing blew up over there? Whoever left that stuff there, it was stupid, but it might have been an agent that left it there all them years. You know how corrupt things, they might have just left it there and left it there. For what? For somebody to come around and start a fire. For that stuff to blow up, you have to have an extended, heated amount of heat to make all that stuff explode. So you can see on the video, they have a hot fire going for a while, and then boom, the thing looks like a miniature subatomic explosion. And it devastates. Hey man, they can say what they want. That looks like the Israelis to me. I don't care what they say. They can't prove it, that's too bad, that's your problem. But see, we don't believe in, stuff just happened. We believe like design fitna, that the world we live in is designed. If they want to get a law against us, the Patriot Act and everything, they people mess up, and the Ramsey Youssefs and all them to do everything they need, right, to get what they want. Then after they get it, you don't see it anymore hardly, right? It disappears. So they got all of that stuff so that they could do what they wanted to us, and they got it all. The anti-terrorism bill, they got all of that stuff. And now you don't see any of that stuff going on. What happened? Everybody just forgot. They had all that stuff, and then now it's almost disappeared. So the point I'm making is we're living in a very serious time. In fact, we're living in a I would call it this is the time of the unification of of allies. Okay. You have China, the Belt and Road Initiative. You could look at China 10 years ago and they had their Caribbean initiative. You could look at them in Africa. They've been over there for over a decade. They've been building great institutions and all that for the Africans in Africa. Okay, so and then you take the Russians. The Russians is bad in their own way. The only thing is that the Russian economy is a little shallow, but now you have the Chinese and the Russians working in total harmony. They have tours, they call them red tours, where the Chinese go to Russia and they visit those famous places in Russia where the Communist Party did this, and they call it red tours. You know, red for red communists. They have them, they're popular in China because the Chinese can afford it now. The Russians need the money, they go visit the red tours. The Chinese do right now. India was getting ready to build a couple of Chabar or something, build, they was getting ready to get a Chinese a port in Iran. They're not giving them that port. The port is going to China because China and Iran has signed a 25-year agreement. It's a military agreement. It's a whole type of agreement that they have signed. Boy, that is serious rain out there. So they've signed that agreement. They've signed that agreement now so that if you look in, brother from Iran came here 2 weeks ago to convince me of something. A big brother, he not a big physical, but one of the brothers that I know for 40 years, and that we could talk. I said, so I hear that all the stuff in the markets now are made in China. He said, yeah. So what does that mean? That means there's good and bad. But the United States have put a blockade on Iran. But they're still buying oil from, China is still buying things from Iran and, supplying China with everything that they need. But Iran is sending stuff to Venezuela. Iran is sending stuff, so they're not broke, you know what I mean? In fact, they sending foodstuffs to Venezuela. So they'll have a halal market in Venezuela. I mean, halal food. Well, anything made in Iran is going to be halal. It has to be. So they can call it Persian cuisine, this, that. They can call it anything they want. But it's in Venezuela. They're locking up. Now, you can't just say, oh, China and Iran. When I spent time in Iran in the 80s and 90s, the silkworm missile came from China. That's the ship, the missile they would use to hit them big oil things. The Iranians had them. During the war, China was getting stuff from America, but they were supporting the Chinese. I mean, the Chinese were supporting. I would sit next to the Chinese guy, down in the lobby. He would have all the Chinese, all the room, the keys to all the rooms of the China. He would be the coordinator, and he'd have his list, and he would have, you see all the keys and everything, and I used to just watch him. Whenever there was one there, I would watch and just see, because that's his job to coordinate all it. And the Chinese supported Iran all along. So it's not a new phenomenon. It's just new now to the Western people are saying, you can't do that with them and da-da-da-da-da. And everybody else is forming cliques, alliances. First of all, China is just about hooked up pretty well throughout Asia, except for India. So it's offshored a lot of little factories to Vietnam, a lot to, Cambodia, all of those places. The stuff we've been talking about for the last years, they're doing it and they've been doing it. China and Japan, home folks, that's the main sticking point that we've always viewed. The Japanese was so, it's not even terrible. They were so bad to Chinese. The rape of Nanking in 1937, the bombing of cities, oh man, it was, in those days they used to refer to the Japanese as the white man of Asia. He was, hey man, it was unbelievable. But after they lost the war, the non-militarists took over. And the Japanese, they said, we don't even want to have an army. They got maybe a little bit of 5 or 10 people, but they don't have, they said, forget about all that military stuff. It's the militarists that got them in all that trouble. World War II. And it didn't start at the Tanaka Plan, 1923, how Japan will use China to build its great step toward empire. And that's why it started. It invaded Manchuria, called it Manchukuo. But don't worry, we've been hanging with a good crew. The analysis of China in those days was clear but simple. China is a big country that's weak, and Japan is a little country that's strong. And they were strong. They was technically strong and physically, they believed in that. Oh man, technically they still have it. It don't all go away. You know what I mean? Because the Japanese right now and the police, well, it's been years, but I remember seeing Japanese demonstrators. They'd have football helmets on, they'd have them big sticks, and they'd come out and the police would come out and they'd be just, you can't do that over here. You put on a football helmet, the police will blow holes all in that boy, right? But those people, hey man, yeah, you want to, okay, come on. So the Japanese people, the unions and all that would be, this is at least a decade or two ago. But I remember seeing they would come out with their clubs, them long clubs and sticks, and the police would come out too, and they was more like humans, like, man, oh, you think you bad, sucker? You know what I mean? Well, come on out. I'll meet you on the outside of town at 4 o'clock, right? And you go out there and shoot it out. And that's the way they do. But the Americans, hey, man, I'll meet you at 3 o'clock, and at 12 noon, they'll kill everybody in the house. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that's American style. But look, everything is everything is falling into place. The Japanese and the Chinese are working together. Well, that takes Asia. That means the number one country, that used to be America. Let's call it number one now, just for the heck of it. But number 2 and 3 is Japan and China. If they work together, Asia, finished. You see what I mean? That is already happened. That's already happened. Okay. The way they mishandling all the money and everything. All right, so the Chinese, the Japanese, And if you take the Russians, all the people that are being pushed out of the modern system, the Japanese are still in the Western camp, so to speak, a little bit, physically, but not, you know what I mean? They know where they belong. So,
Especially when they got U.S. military bases over there
in Okinawa,
and they raping all the Japanese women. They want them out of there.
they have a demonstration, I think, every other week in Okinawa. And if you want the baddest martial arts, you learn it in Okinawa. Isn't that true? Good God Almighty. I saw some of the training. I said, man, you know, when I used to train, I said, whew, hey, man, I just handed it. I said, no, that's all right, y'all. That's okay with me. You know, you can have it. But the point is, there comes that period in history, the turning point that happened already. America and the West, the ones that want to go with Boss Man, which is not that many, it's already fixed. So the Chinese and the Russians, that great, two big, I mean, they almost joined this thousands of miles of border. China and Russia, they home folks. India is the only guest card, you know what I mean, that would be in the Western camp. But they're not rich enough or tough enough yet to do anything about all of this. So, if you take the Middle East, the so-called Middle East, the biggest country in that area is Iran. Iran is linked with China, the Belt and Road. The Belt and Road, if people are not watching, the Belt and Road is hooked up. In other words, technically, America has lost this round. There's nothing it could do but make noise. On technology, we don't want you to use the 5, what's the name? Yeah, stay away from it. But then the people that stay away from it gonna lose. They say, we're gonna have the same thing in 18 months. 18 months now in technology, it's obsolete. Every year, every month they come out, I don't know, they had the 7 phone, I think they're up to 11 or 12 now, right? That's in a couple of years. Technology now, 1 year, technology, you're obsolete. Because people look at my phone, they say, well, it's mainly my kids. Dad, you gotta upgrade that. I said, hell, I can't even use the stuff on here. Do you? And then I tell them the stuff. I said, do you know I used to have to go and rent and buy lectures? I said, do you know every lecture that's almost ever made? I said, I used to have to go study China, India, and all of that, Africa, and all the black nationalist conferences. Do you know I can type in those conferences on YouTube, and I can't listen to all the lectures, there's too many, on everything. And like China now, and on like that part of the world, I don't have to read nothing. I mean, I read the stuff that they got, that they print out, I read that, and then I can listen to, I go to bed listening to lectures. They have the people from the Department of Strategic Studies, from Australia, from everywhere, right? I said, I can't even use the stuff I got. I said, it's got buttons on here. They done put all them apps. I said, I don't know. I can't use what I got now. So why would I go get a 15 or 12 or 13? Right? I said, then it just get confusing. You know, I can't use what I have now. Can you imagine? But that's how, imagine, it's like the internet. Somebody can call you and say, we want you to give a lecture on thermodynamics of the movement. And you said, I ain't never even heard of that, but you can type up and you get this lecture here. That you can read 5 or 6 lectures or hear experts on that. And once you get the game, see, you can know, like I listen to all them lectures from Australia and from China, from everywhere. And once you get the game, you know where all you're doing is learning. You might learn 2% from this guy, 3% from that guy. But they giving you all the up-to-date stuff, and you're not gonna swallow all of that. And it is so easy now. I said, man, this stuff almost ain't even fun. It's so easy that you can pipe into that. But the point is that everything is at your fingertips. So that's why our analysis are not losing quality, they're increasing in quality. Well, I think they are. Maybe y'all got a different. I think that our analysis is getting more accurate and more pinpoint because of the information. We used to have to go down to the doggone Martin Luther King Library and get a stack of books. I mean, you had to go through all these books, and you pull out this book, and you pull out that book, then you go back and see which ones you want to really take. And you got to thumb through all and you take, I used to take, not long ago, stacks of books, just from MLK. Then it got to when whatever happens.com came out, something, this was over 20 years ago. You know that that website, whatreallyhappened.com, right? But they would have all of these. Do you know, I used to copy, I got all that stuff copied. I said, I ain't gonna do that no more. And then, you go through that internet, you get addicted for a few days. I said, man, I'm not gonna, because you be printing out and you be printing and you can't read all that stuff and it don't make sense. So you got to know how, right? Everybody, I guess everybody went through it because they just, look at that, will you, and you got stacks of paper, go get some more paper, put it, and then you're printing out, you got stacks of stuff. And then you can't read it, and then it's obsolete. It's so much stuff that it's obsolete because it's the news cycle. Instead of getting the core of what's going on, you get the whole news cycle. Imagine printing out everything they say on news every day. You got all of that junk, right? It's junk. So we learned how to pick the real stuff. You know what I mean? Just pick the real stuff and get that hooked up. That's why I believe that our stuff improved. Anyway, one of the things that we wanted to mention, we talked about the Long March in China a little bit. We want to talk about something we've had as a lecture for a long time, Stalingrad to Oakland. Stalingrad to Oakland. Stalingrad, as we said for 10,000 times, and you can type it up there, Stalingrad. Stalingrad was the city, now they call it Volgograd, on the Volga River. Everything, this was in 1941, the Germans launched the Operation Barbarossa. Barbarossa was considered a super success, 1941, 42. It swept over Russia. They were 500 miles in Russian territory in little or no time. The Russians used, which they always use, the scorched earth policy. If they couldn't put it on a train, a factory, and send it back behind Stalingrad and behind Russia, remember, which is a big place, right? Then you can't, they burn it, scorched earth, so they wouldn't leave nothing for the Germans to lose. They launched this operation in, I think, June or July 1941. Hey man, when they got up into the winter time, they was almost Leningrad here, Stalingrad here, and Moscow. They was all on the outskirts of those cities, but they never got them, because that's where they stopped them at. Stalingrad is so important because it was a turning point of the war. Stalingrad is where all the things that they used in their blitzkrieg warfare, the Germans had got down combining tanks with air power, or air power with tanks, and air power with all the infantries, how they could coordinate all of that and they could sweep over. They called it blitzkrieg, lightning war. It was. They could just, they did it in Poland, and they did it in Russia too. But they came to Stalingrad. What's so important for them and what's important for us is this. This is the main point. The point that in Stalingrad, everything that used to be a benefit to the German army became a deficit. First of all, the panzer divisions, they out on the plain, boy, they can move, them German tanks, right? And everything, and air power, man, lightning war. Then they got to Stalingrad, and everything changed. Everything that was a benefit, even air power, what happened? They bombed the city so bad, right? The German tanks couldn't move down the street. So every time a German tank go down the street that's been bombed out, it would stop. When it stopped, the Russians would finish it off. The more rubble they had, the better it was. Then they brought in snipers, and they wore the Germans out. By early 42, the German 6th Army was surrounded, and old dumb Hitler would tell everybody, don't fall back, you can't fall back, and no surrender, no this. That fool did that every time. He wouldn't let nobody fight. And all the Wehrmacht, they said, hey man, we can pull back a little bit, then we can hit them over here. They were smart. You can't blame none of this on the German generals. They had the game down pat. But Hitler wouldn't let them fight. The name of this city is Stalingrad. Our main enemy is Stalin. We got to get that city. He almost got it, but he didn't get it. They stayed there so long, the Russians came around, surrounded them, and captured 90,000, I don't know how many. Out of all them soldiers, 6,000 of them got back. The surrendered, 6,000 Germans made it back home. All the rest of them died and froze to death or starved to death. Almost same thing in Leningrad. The point is about Stalingrad. Stalingrad was the change in the war. We think D-Day, June the 6th, America invaded France, and right? Omaha Beach and all of that. That's what they told us. That's not what won World War II. The Russians, all the way back from Kursk and all of those cities, the Russians chased the Germans all the way back to Berlin, right? Now, for us, what does all this mean? This means that we've been here during a long march, our own long march, and we knew this was a protracted struggle. We knew this was a protracted struggle all the time. It was never, you know what I mean, a big mystery to us. A few years ago, we made this DVD or CD from Stalingrad to Oakland. Because at that time, all the stars lined up. All the stars lined up with Oakland. Everything that they used against us we used to call it psycho-composting, all that old googly-gop that wasn't googly-gop, that wasn't colored stuff. But we was using that because this was good for us. That's the thing. We never gave up on ourselves, on our mentality, on our ability to analyze our environment. And also for us to strategically locate ourselves in the movement, right? Where at first we might take the brunt of all the battle, but we'll be there and it'll be clear that this is where we've been all the time. So right at the time, all of this stuff is lining up. Stalingrad to Oakland, now we can see it. China, Russia, all the alliances, right? They're at the end of trying to crush everybody. Okay, everybody knows that in another couple of months, Iran will survive this stuff right here, and Biden is going to lighten up on everything. And if he don't, they'll have to go on. People forget that Iran fought that war 1980 to 1988 with nobody helping them. And now they in pocket. They not by themselves, right? So for us, from Stalingrad to Oakland mean that was a signal for us. You got to remember, we didn't just start talking about Stalingrad to Oakland. Now everybody sees that it was a signal, that everything that the enemy had been using against us, right, is now is ineffective, and we can use it against them. Everything that they've used against us is now ineffective. All the cars sitting out there, all that stuff, we'll use it as advertisement. As advertisement. In fact, I'll ask y'all to make a video a piece, we'll talk about, make a video a piece. Maybe Jamal can make one too, right? And we'll talk to the people about our own experiences. You can talk to them about your experiences. I've been here 25 years. This is what I've seen. Nothing, this is what I've seen. This is what I understand from that. And how are y'all doing? That type of stuff, right? You do the same thing. I've been here 5 or 6 years, and you wouldn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I still don't believe it, but I have seen it, so I'm going to relate it to you. Now, you can take it the way you want. You know what I mean? And you've been here since you was a child. So, right? It probably, I never ask people, hey, man, how does this stuff look to you? Sometime I'm going to ask you, how does this stuff that's going on here, right? It's, hey, all we can do, here's where we are. We're right at the tipping point where it's already tilted. The U.S. got a shattered policy. It's got a shattered policy because it's an old empire. It's an old empire that's got a lot of things messing it up. Where it can't treat Chinese like equals because they're arrogant about their Chinamans, right? So China is whooping they behind, but they can't accept it yet. It's just like them big shows where you see the Chinaman whooping the white man. You have to defeat him before he even, and then he won't admit, you know what I mean, that he been whooped by a Chinaman. But this is one of those historical, at a certain time in history, I watched it first with big Negroes and people going up with sports guys, like our sports guys do all their training, they start getting big, then they start making mistakes on their own. You know what I mean? They start making mistakes on their own. Since I was in drugs, I used to watch the Oakland Raiders. They started using drugs. Okay, you don't have to worry about something gonna happen after that, you know. And then when you start using drugs like cocaine, you start getting loose in your game. And when you get a whole lot of money and you mix the drugs and you mix the money together and you mix hunger, you know, or like they say, stay hungry, you're not hungry anymore. And pretty soon you see a guy or a group of guys that had all the talent in the world, and all of a sudden it starts drifting away. And only a few of them can get back, you know what I mean? A few of them get back to where they can perform admirably. That's true in the big political game too. You know, when a system starts moving along and it can't do anything wrong. Everything is... America, when it jumped off, it couldn't do nothing wrong. It just couldn't do nothing wrong. Although it did everything wrong, it still, history was going its way. Oh, 13 colonies, all manifest destiny. Oh, manifest destiny, just kill. I mean, we'll kill all the buffaloes. We'll just kill all of them, because they kill the buffalo, then the Indian gotta go, right? If we leave the buffalo, why the Indian can run around and fight and eat and have a house to stay in, because it's his whole show, right? So let's see what we do. Oh, we'll send people out on trains. They send white folks out on trains with Henry rifles. Those are very good rifles, to slaughter buffalo. And then they changed the style. Back east, buffalo robes. Europe, buffalo robes, right? And then after that, buffalo robes go out of style when there ain't no more buffaloes, right? And the Indians all on reservations. And we're so, see, the white man is so mean. Okay, the Indians is on reservations. Okay, finished. No, that ain't enough. We go get them boys some smallpox and everything else. We whoop and cough. Anything else we can sprinkle that they knew on them blankets, and they get it. That's satanic. You know what I mean? That's not warfare, normal warfare. That's just satanic. But anyway, so they did all that. World War I, shoot all the... No, when they wanted more colonies, when the West was won, they say the frontier closed down in about 1876 in America. Maybe it was 1886, but no more frontier. So what, 15 years later, remember the Maine. Everybody running up San Juan Hill, most of them Negroes, of course, but they don't say nothing about that. At least Roosevelt, he didn't say nothing about it. At first he said, them niggas is the one that did this. Then when he run for president, he kind of forgot that there was the Negroes. It was real Rough Riders. They wasn't even Rough Riders. They was rough walkers, because, no, they had to leave they horses on, they had to leave their horses. That's why they was marching. When you see them black soldiers marching in 1898, they're marching, that's because they left, they couldn't bring their horses with them, because they was cavalry. Remember the old movies we watched, the cavalry riding in to save everybody? In the West, I had no idea. I saw a movie in 1960, 61 called Sergeant Rutledge. You ever see that movie? The Woody Strode? That was a good movie. It was a good movie. It was a good movie. But you know what? Up until then, I had absolutely no idea that 60% or more of all, when the cavalry rode in, it was Negro soldiers. The 9th and 10th Cavalry, right, was all Buffalo soldiers. I was just watching the regular white folks movies. I thought all the people, when the cavalry rode in, they blow their trumpet, it was white folks. Guess what? 60% of the time or more, it was Negroes. Hey, man, anyway, but that ain't nothing. The boss man just got the Philippine colonies, the Virgin Islands, liberated Cuba, and they blew up his own Maine and what's the name? It's okay. This going his way. World War I, no problem. The first arsenal of democracy, the white folks fighting over there, no problem. 3,000 miles away, hey, we'll produce over here, and we'll get rich off y'all. And then at the end, they send troops in. Guess what troops fought the hardest and last the longest in World War I? Black troops, Harlem Hellfighters, right? 369, 371. They didn't even let the Negroes fight in American uniform. They put them in a French uniform. And the French loved, that's why after World War I, there's so many black people, like even James Baldwin, his house was in France. Why all the musicians, they go to France. Josephine Baker lived in France. You know, why? Because the French loved black people. Why? Because the French had lost so many soldiers in World War I, right, fighting the Germans. They asked the Americans, hey, y'all got all those guys digging all them ditches and stuff, or could we borrow them? Or could we use them niggas? They said, yeah, you could have them. So they said, y'all leave your white folks' uniform here and put on a French uniform. And them Negroes fought harder and longer and got a record of being in the trenches longer than anybody, and they didn't get there till 1917. And the war ended in 1918. Boy, I'm trying to tell you. So America, hey, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. I'm telling you, man, anything it did, it just was fine. World War II, same thing. Hey, y'all fighting over there, not a bomb drop on America, the arsenal of democracy, right? And after World War II, they got all the money, they ain't never lost a thing, and they could rebuild the world and they could run the world. They did a bad job. Everything went their way. But when the pendulum changes, you can't do nothing right. Donald Trump is an example of that, right? He's just an example of America now. It don't make no difference why he do it or what, he's not doing it right, period. Whatever's good for America, he ain't doing it. He's just not doing it. You don't have to analyze it and say, well, let's just don't worry about it. Don is not doing anything right. Can you imagine what America, well, you could imagine because they say it. Why is America, how is it the great America and it can't fix nothing? Why, you know, now it's getting serious. This 165, almost 170,000 people, right? Because there's 1,000 dying a day at least. So it's creeping up on 170,000 people dead. Okay. A lot of people saying, hey, since it's all Mexicans, Latinos and blacks and old people, Native, oh my goodness. Why all these people, you know what I mean? Just a minute, you know, like conspiracy theory is nothing. These are all the people dying, and then they put one or two nice white folks that just died on the news. So you would think that most of the people dying, although you hear every day, it's mostly black people, it's mostly Latinos, Native Americans dying like flies, old people dying. They show you a few nice white folks that died every day on the news. Oh, this guy played a fiddle and he died, and his family loved him, right? That's what they show you. So you have it in your mind that there's white folks dying. Although you're hearing all day long that it's black people, Native Americans, and Latinos dying. And the math would say that, but this math is getting out of hand. we know black people have bad health and low representation and this, that, and other, but it ain't that bad. And we know Latinos run across the border, they don't have a lot of stuff, and we know that's bad. We know this disease, alcoholism, drug addiction on a reservation is worse than anywhere in the United States. It's just so bad. It's a statistic that you just don't want to review because you already know it's bad. Okay, but it's not that bad where it's 3 and 4 times the amount of people dying. You know, that's getting up there.
Yeah, you mentioned, like they say, now they're saying it's reaching the rural areas. So that means white people.
See, whatever you do, if they come for me in the morning, they're going to come for you tonight. That happened on opiates, on heroin for us, and opiates for them. It don't make no difference, whatever it is. It's still going to catch the people. That's why you stop wrong right away, as early as possible. But anyway, let's get back to what we've been dealing with. So Stalingrad to Oakland, the message was and is that there's a tilt in history. All of this bad stuff that's been happening, okay, now it's tilting. It's tilting, and it's tilted, already tilting. I use the term when you put an undercut under a tree and you cut like this, and then you start cutting from the back, and you put that wedge in, and you start hitting it, and you cut a little more and hitting it. Pretty soon, that tree tilts, pop. No matter how tall it is, when it tilts up there, and it's all over, when you hear that boy crack down the middle, finish. There's no comeback. America has cracked. It's not already tilt. The spine of America is gone. It is so everything that America was is not no more. Now we want to separate the policies of America from the people of America, although there's still a semi-connection. What we want to do is we want to reduce, we've always wanted to reduce the death of people. But you know what? There's a certain reality. We studied the white man too, and like, for instance, I always talk about being a target, and I talk about medicine. Okay, when I used to travel years ago, I mean, this is over 50 years, yeah, it's a while back. I carried a medical dictionary with me. Those nice ones, those very expensive kind of nice ones. It has everything alphabetical order. It has all the diseases. It has all the medicines. And it has all the real color pictures with the little plastic there, you know, for your insides, and you could take one back and it's less insides than the other. I had all of those. And I used to travel with those because of, I was in all kind of tropical climates. So I would be in South America, and I would be in Africa, and I would be in Asia. I would be everywhere in the world. And I knew I was from, the West. And I would be susceptible to many things, because if you go to Mexico one day, the people call it Montezuma's disease. You get diarrhea and all of that stuff. Don't drink the water. It just so happens, hey, When I was in Africa, everybody got sick but me. Amoebas, they had everybody. You could see in what's the name's film where they malaria. I think they would get malaria. Pete and Charlotte would have malaria. They'd be just getting over it. When I was in East Africa, all the brothers and sisters from here had something. But they were all from the University of Boston, and they were like Northern Negroes. They were all, in fact, almost everybody was a Northern Negro. You know, black nationalists, they went up north but I was born in Arkansas. I was born right, the bayou was right there. All them bugs so I was 6 years old when I left. And I was trying to figure out why I don't never get nothing. Well, everything that you would get, we would get it down there. You know, like all the childhood diseases, measles, mumps, chicken pox, we got all those. Did y'all get, y'all got all those? Man, we got all of those stuff. People would get worms and they'd have to take medicine. We got all of, you know, our body was built up for all of that stuff. So I would wonder why I never get amoebas. What the hell, we drank the water out of the bayou. You know, we said, don't drink the water. We had immunity. This is what I was feeling. But I would read, I would study those very carefully. And I mean, they were good, you know, it was almost so thin, it was like that old time Bible paper. It was good, a good book though. And if I wanted to, if anything come up on me, which it rarely did, I would know, I would have a kind of an idea of how to treat myself. So in looking for treatment, I would look up, I would look on all the medicines, and one of them was some diet pills, and they had B-fetamina. I said, B-fetamina. This thing has 2 amphetamines in it. I said, this is crank. I mean, realize crystal is methadone crystals. That's what it is. The medicine. Not only one, B-fetaminas. So I said, hey man, I bet you if I feel tired a little bit, hey man, I would just take a little diet pill, put a little bit, I wouldn't take much, just put a little bit on my tongue, come off and rolling all day long. Because B-fetamina, you know, and I'm living on a fruit diet. Hey man, believe it or not, I was down to 165 pounds. I was almost middleweight. I mean, with muscles and everything, imagine I could do pull-ups with one finger almost. You know, I mean, I had roommates sometime that was mountain climbers, and they get over the door, you know, and they do pull-ups with their fingers on them doggone doors. And I was doing them too. I couldn't do them now, of course, but I mean, I was that poor, that skinny from, you know, B-fetaminas, and never tired. I mean, just wasn't gonna get tired, because all you do is just touch a little, and it's a diet pill, but real diet pills, not these things up here. You could take a bottle of them and still be hungry. Hey man, them B-fetaminas, hey man, 10 could last you 6 months, because you can't take no whole, I couldn't take no, I just put a little bit like here on the capsule, and boom, I'm rolling all day and never tired. Okay, so the point is that I got used to kind of treating myself for different things, because it would have the disease and the treatment, you know. So I got used to that. The other thing is the social and the psychological and the historical diseases. They also have their occurrence. They occur at a certain time in history. They occur, and then there's a treatment, usually. The only thing is the participant historically in the Bible, in the Quran, in the history books, they never take the treatment. You don't find but one place historically, the people of Nineveh, 100,000 or more, the people of Nineveh. Right. They took the treatment. They took the treatment. In other words, they accepted the prophet. Now, in the Bible, now I don't know. I think I read y'all that in the Bible. The Bible part, the prophet was so mad because the people had accepted the treatment that he was mad because they accepted the treatment. That's in the Bible, not in the Quran. But anyway, we don't have generally people historically accepting and using the treatment. That means America is not in a mood to accept the treatment. And that's still mean. I use my own self to, when I came here today, first, I didn't get up till 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. Now, yesterday I did not. A little run, a little walk in the hills, it's just nice. I said, now tomorrow, I'm going to get up early, and I'm going to do this, that, and other, and I might be able to get my exercise in time, and tomorrow is when I start this whole new thing we've been talking about for a week or so. We're going to have our fun next door. Basically, we're going to have our job description, right? And we're going to do a certain job every day on a regular basis. And I couldn't hardly move. So when I got up, I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Now, I have had nothing all day, but remember I used to tell you about my certain coffees I loved, and they got a little buzz? Well, okay, this coffee that used to give me the buzz, the little high, if I drink it, it didn't work. It must have combined with something. But when I used that coffee in an enema, and I've been doing this for years, when I used this coffee that I used today, a couple hours ago, in an enema, it cleaned out and everything, and it worked perfect. And you got a little juice. So I studied a long time ago, self-treatment. Why when I use this coffee as an enema, I get a little juice? It's because it's coming in your behind and going in your large intestines only. Why is it anytime I use it, I feel clear in the head and everything? Maybe because your large intestines are the last absorption of certain things, right? And if I was tired and all dizzy acting and sluggish, when I would take an enema, bam, I'd pick up all the time, including during fasting time. And it really works to do it fast. In fact, it's almost cheating, so you have to stop doing it when you're fasting because you're cheating, because you're taking in something, but it's coming in the other end, but it's still, here, I'm ready to go. I mean, when you just tired and can't hardly see, so you can't, you have to control yourself, because you could find a way, you could call it the fiqh of fasting or something, diversionary fasting, anything you could figure out, how niggas is. But anyway, so you have to watch yourself. But this is what I came across after decades of this over and over again. The number one is certain stuff that that goes into your body, and maybe it combines with other stuff. And that's like the coffee. If there's certain things coming in, it may combine in your stomach with other stuff, and it puts you to sleep. That's what this same coffee that I did have today. If it come in the back, it juices me up. If it come in the front, it puts me to sleep. And this is not from this month. This is for years I've been doing this. And I'm telling this now. And boss man ought to know, but if he don't, he can kiss my behind. But here's the thing. In studying yourself, you study, okay, if our analysis is true, if we're going to be real archivists, writing all this down, if we're going to be real chroniclers, right? We're going to chronicle all this stuff. We're going to have it right for everybody. If we're really going to do that Star Trekism, and the other analysis, are we really the target? So if you're going to be an archivist, documentalist, chronicler, historian, then what comes next? Educator, trainer. If you're going to train people in this, you're going to have to train them with willpower, strong-mindedness, fortitude, self-control, self-command, self-mastery, self-government, tenaciousness. You're going to have to be tenacious. This what, right? Okay. Endurance. Endurance, duro, hard. Endurance to last a long time. Another thing for protractedness. Toughness, resistance. In other words, if that's true, that means we're going to have to endure this stuff long enough to document it where it's 99% correct. It's scientific, but it don't look scientific because don't have a lot of little bottles doing this, but you're studying yourself all the time, and you're recording all of this, right? You're recording all of this, so you know what you're talking about. So when you study your history, you can go back and see, well, stuff I told y'all. I said, yeah, I'm one of the first Negroes to run off the plantation, which is going all around the world. So my ideas at McNeil Island, they gave me a little operation they said they had to do a biopsy. And they just cut right up here. But I'm sure they put something there. What is it? Like clipping animals' ear, you know what I mean? You tag them, right? After that's 1974. After I got out of prison, when I would run in them beautiful hills in Oakland, I could not avoid the white man. He would be there some kind of way. Or if I slip back, because I'm going to test this, when it comes to me. If I'm running down a trail and there's a steep trail up there, when you're in shape, I could shoot up that way and shoot through the woods. I mean, real woods. And I couldn't get away from Boss Man. So I knew I was tagged. I done studied it over years. All 80s, I done studied and tried it. I done run this wood, I done run through that wood. I done did all the stuff. Now, it's not been charted down, but I have made all those studies to see if I was tagged. Now, if I wasn't tagged, we could say, okay, the white man is just lucky. The other thing is like, if I was married to a person and they want to stay there all the time, you have to ask yourself why. I said, if I done divorced somebody and I done gave them a stack of $100 bills, which no nigga do, ain't nobody. Do you know of any African Americans? Tell the truth. This gave, and you can check, a black woman a whole stack of $100 bills in a divorce. They don't do that. In fact, if there's anything laying around that they might see, they're going to snatch it and run. I'm saying, okay, then why? So when I first get married, all of a sudden I got big blisters. The only one around that would remember those blisters is Tufel, because I'd wear those, my regular shalwar kameez, and the blisters would show up right here, man, big blisters. So that meant something, the way I added up, somebody's putting something in something and it's supposed to produce something, and those blisters are signs. Those big blisters are signs. Later on, I have blood clots. Oh, I didn't have them, but my legs swelled up, and that's what I'm sure it was, a blood clot. So I'm seeing all this real quick, so it seemed like they just pulled back for a minute. They said, this is too quick. So they pulled back for a minute. When I would go to South Africa, when I would go everywhere, I had certain systems. Those little bottles of ginseng, I'd take a little bottle of ginseng and Coca-Cola, and I'd put a little drop in, and then I'd drink a little Coke, and I'd get a little buzz, and I would stay. Like all those writings that I made, that's how I could write them, because I could be sitting here, I'd get a little tired, okay, I'll go to the refrigerator, get a little drop of ginseng. Just a little drop, not no whole lot, because in a day's time, I would use up just one of those bottles in a whole day, which is fine. And the Coke seemed to give it a little boost. So eventually somebody finds ways to interfere with that process. Okay, no problem. And then I get arousal itches. I might have mentioned that. Did I ever mention arousal itch? Arousal itch is something you get, this a serious itch when you get aroused. And if you're famous for concentrating on what you're doing, if someone want to break your concentration, they get you to itching. It still works lightly. That's why I like to have it cool in here. And that's why I have this stuff back here to rub, because if the temperature changes wrong, because once they mess you up, they can't come back and undo it maybe, right? No, this is true. This wasn't the way it was before, but if the combination of moisture and da-da-da-da gets in the room and a certain amount of heat, you know what I mean? That's fine for everybody else, but I'll start itching. So I keep this right back here, and that's what it's for. It's not some beauty cream that I want to rub on my body. It's to make sure that the remnants, and if I get, last time I went to the passport office, or if I have an argument with somebody or a discussion, and I get to a certain level, the itch will kick in. Yeah, it didn't happen before, but itch kick in. No, it's not. That is not bad. All of that is good. Because remember, it don't make no difference what nobody do. We're going to use it for the good. In fact, the more bad they do, the more we like it. Why? You train yourself like that. Nobody wants to be itching to death, but you say itching is better than dying. Itching is better than being boiled in oil. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, right? It is. It's better. So you train yourself that anything they do, you're going to use it to a benefit. So today, I said, let me see. Because at 11 o'clock, and of course I if I hadn't been asleep all day yesterday, 'cause after I ate, I'd sleep and knocked out for a while, and I get up and have a little bowl of soup. And the stuff I'm eating is not stuff that make you sleep. I know what to eat to feel a certain way. I know if I eat certain things, it'll knock me out. And if I eat certain things, it'll wake me up. If I eat nice veggie stuff just lightly, you know what I mean, with little light crackers, I'll feel juiced up. I do it every Ramadan. I eat that, I'll feel fine. If I eat certain stuff, I'm gonna be knocked out. So I didn't eat none of that yesterday. I only ate real light stuff. In fact, I came down here and made me a soup and took it back down there in a big canister, and that's all it was. It's not a soup. Yeah, it's a soup. You know, it's kind of a soup. A little thick soup, but it's nice. So I got up this morning at 11 o'clock, not no 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, which if it was going to how much sleep I had yesterday. Because see, when I used to sleep over 7, 8 hours, I'd start getting a headache. I'd have to get up. Because I said, man, I've been here too long, you know. And it was just one of them good habits. So I was laid out all night and all the night. Now the night before last 2 nights, I thought, okay, I had them shots. You know, them shots, somebody said I had 3 shots. Then I said, let me read what they said. So all 3 said, you know, if you take this shot, you might be a little sleepy, a little drowsy. So all 3 of them said that. I had a tetanus shot and I had whatever them other shots was. So I said, okay, maybe the reason so when I left here, remember at class, I said, I'm going back and get me some sleep. At least that's what I was thinking. And I laid down, I was asleep all that night. Then when I got up, I could get me a drink of water and I was still sleepy. So I said, let me read this. So then I read the thing late at night and it said, I said, okay, good, I can sleep. In fact, I'm gonna take tomorrow off and I'm just gonna sleep. But then it wasn't going away. You know what I mean? After 2 days. So after 2 days, it kind of went away a little bit. But today, with my new schedule, and you write the schedule, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna be job description. So 4481, this, that, and other. I'm gonna do a certain amount of work all day. I'm back to my old schedule. I'm gonna work all day. No TV, no nothing. So if I work for so many hours, or if I work just an hour and I get tired, I just go lay down, get me a little breather, listen to something on the news, and then I'll go back to work. And if I get a little tired, I can do that all day because the schedule is mine. And then I'll have my exercise, and I know what my little exercise, how it makes you feel. So I did my little nice workout yesterday. It was the first complete workout I had in a long time. I liked it. So that meant I would be juiced up for this morning. Then if I get up for Fajr, and then I could hit it at 6 o'clock, and I could take my walks, and I'd be finished everything by 8 o'clock, right? And then I could come down here, and I didn't get up at that time. I got up at 11 o'clock, in fact, 11:06. So I said, So I made my little enema mix, and then I took enema. And I said, I'm not taking, because this is a study. I'm just studying and continuing. So right now, I'm fine, because I haven't taken anything in except the enema. So the enema overpowered whatever. Remember, your large intestines, it's the stuff in you. You got to test yourself. The large intestines, when I would be tired of something before, I said, let me go take an enema. And it would push out or clean out. You know what I mean? the large intestines is going to absorb some of this stuff, whatever it is, right? So if that enema come in, it's going to push all of that out. And the coffee is going to help stimulate all the little follicles there and push it all out. It always works. It worked today. I was just tired as I could be a couple hours ago. I mean, well, if you're super tired, I ain't tired right now, okay? Because I didn't follow a study principle that I've had for over a decade, right? Okay, it comes from the stuff that they've been doing before. What our research shows is that if you take your regular, I remember when my office was mainly back there, man, I could drink a nice cup of coffee and I'd be juiced up. After a while, it started putting me to sleep. So I said, wait a minute, something's going on here. Okay, so then also you have to study what is it that combines one thing or another that make, for instance, you could be getting one thing, light stuff. By itself, there's nothing. You don't feel it. It's odorless and colorless. You know. But if it combines with something else, and the FBI, they got all that stuff. So that's what this stage, what we're doing is right now, when we say that this is a laboratory, that Oakland is a laboratory, DC is a scientific laboratory to study movement. And our job is not only to study movement, but to be a catalyst to document, right? We've been talking about science fiction management for years, and we're only starting to bring it in now. Right? We're only bringing it in now. We mention a little bit every now and then, but we're bringing in science fiction management because that's our job. Because if we're going to point the way, right, either however you're going to do As-Sabiqun, those who lead the way or those who show the way. If we're right now those who show the way, we're going to have to show them all the scientific advantages that they have from our research. Because that's what the target is. I'm the guinea pig. They're using it. Look, I don't care whether nobody believe it. Well, I talked long enough that people have added up. So now, but you can imagine I had to go through all of this all this time to prove one point after another with 97% accuracy before I would even go to this stuff, right? And this stuff has been in my head. We talked about science fiction management the same time we talked about an air war. It was 17 years ago. So all that we knew then. But what do we have now? We have a better proof. Now, this is what I mean. By the target, by the boss man is so dirty, he knows that you either are or was a physical fitness buff. Boss man to give you a week or two every now and then that your body, he'll let things go back to the way it would be naturally. And as though he's saying to you, now, nigga, wouldn't this be nice that you feel that way all the time? Just because you've earned it in physical fitness and diet, you know what I mean, and watching this and watching that, you know. And he's saying to you, that's what I'm interpreting it. And I got this feeling from when them FBI agents came here. I didn't just get it then, but why did they come here anyway? Why did they say the stuff they were saying? Well, we just want to show you this, and oh, that'll be fine. And then we're not going to come back here anymore. But the man is sitting there with with a big box, this big, a big electronic gadget, and we're sitting there. and he has it this close to my head. The Korean guy, the white guy is sitting over here, and they got it this close to my head. That's after the, what's the name? And you ask yourself, you think they might have put something in, right? So I said, don't worry about a thing. We on this, don't you worry about a thing. We got it covered. In other words, if the white man can mess you up, you can fix yourself up. You know what I mean? So anyway, so finally they said, well, this is the last time we're going to, we don't have to do this anymore because we're going to fix everything. It's all right. So he's, oh, I mean, I can catch a plane and not have me, well, hell, he don't have to, they don't have to hold me up at the plane anymore. And the assault in Oakland was just enough that I would have to get the operation. They're not there to kill me. They're there to make sure. They're probably counting the whacks. Because you know, at a certain time, they stopped themselves. And I'm not saying I was too dizzy to chase them, but, you know, they had a field day. I mean, you could tell that, okay, so what did they want to put up there? Okay, I assume from day one that there's something up there. I know that boss man don't do that. Then when the Iranians said it happened on November 4th, they said, well, we had something to do with that. Well, I've been knowing the Iranians been acting funny in America for way over a decade. They've been acting funny. These Iranians, not the Iranians back in Iran and my friends, but these guys here must have some agreement with boss man. Our crew in LA, that was Shias. We had a Sunni crew and a Shia crew. That crew in LA, I could tell by the way they acting, they was tied to this over here. The crew out here in the woods, right here, the Shia brothers, right out here in the woods, I could tell who bought the place. They could say so-and-so Johnny Boy bought it, but Johnny Boy, niggas don't spend no money on not on that spread. They didn't do it. They might put somebody they like there, but they didn't. That thing was bought, and you could tell by the people that come there. You could tell by the people, everything they do. Where's Velayati Faqih out there? It's not there, right? You don't hear nobody, do you hear anybody out there talking about Velayati? They don't. Who's the islands? I know all the islands, the whole crew from when they was kids to the grown people. They do not talk about the subjects that we talk about. They was to draw them from here, take them out there, and make sure. The place around there, right, the research center, was to take all the Africans away from here. Remember how many Sudanese? It was the place, I don't know how many people, I don't even know how all them people got in that little place around there. I don't have no idea. Remember how full it was? Remember the cars would be parked all down here, all out, and you would come out and you say, how, right, did all those people get in that place? This just every week. I said, and then the people would be coming out all parked, or can't hardly get around. I said, how? It would happen every week. But anyway, look, this is a big deal that we're dealing with. The tilt done kicked in. Those things that we have studied because that's what we need to teach the people. Mid-21st century fitna. And it has to be up to date because 3-4 years now, the science, you know what I mean? Remember when they used to bug telephones? When we first started talking about, not first started, but when we talked about it in 99, we talk about telephone surveillance and all that. That stuff is so old, you know what I mean? that, well, the same thing now. We have to put people up on the modern where the world is now. It has to be credible. One thing I'm going to talk about, and it's not very clear yet, but we're going to have to take advantage of something that exists right now. If you go to the ISNAs, the ICNAs, you'll see nice young people, all college grads almost, all listening to, and okay. They've been fed a line of crap, of course. But they have all the stuff we talk about, halal music, young people making their own movies and doing all that stuff. Okay, that crew is ready right now. They're ready right now. We got to figure out a way not to con the mamas and daddies and these fat cats. But one of our goals right now is to make our line digestible enough. This is going to take a lot of work. Remember, we got to jump over a lot of fences. That means ISNA, ICNA, and all of them, that they trust us with the minds of their children. Now, I know everything we say is a little stretched out, but we got to use what's presented to us. They are there. Do we have time to educate our own cadre? Educate your own cadre. If you get a cadre, it's going to be the police's cadre. They're going to be full, right? You can't I want to educate a group of people to be religiously certain, ethically and morally straight, like the Boy Scouts are and stuff like that. You can't get that. Not in America. They're not going. You're not allowed that. And remember, we said that one of the first things that we had to realize, what is your Ismail? I said, for us, it's our privacy. You don't have no privacy. So everything I'm talking about is considered privacy. I don't have no privacy, so there's no sense pretending that I have privacy. But I want us to think about it for a while. Those people are already educated enough, well enough, they just have to be given a mission. That's why we always talk about America the good. We have to sell them on this is their opportunity, the immigrants' children, to assimilate into America for the good of America and for their own mission in life. That they have a mission, not only Islamically, but when you're dealing with the Muslims, this is an Islamic mission. When you're dealing with their classmates and all of that, it's a human mission. You see what I mean? What do we mean, human mission? All the MSAs, whatever you say, they should join La Raza, they should join Black Lives Matter, they should join all the movements. Not join, but they don't go join those movements. But the black student unions, they should support every Black Lives Matter, whatever they do, right? They should support them, which they should anyway, right? Not support them to control them, but to be a part. So when La Raza is having something on immigration, Their parents understand immigration. In fact, half of them are still nervous too with the Muslim ban, right? So they got cousins in Syria and everywhere else that they want here, but they can't get here because of the Muslim ban. So every issue that's associated with humanity right now, they're right in there on it, right? Black Lives Matter. So you attend all these things. You're out there with them, carrying banners and signs, whatever it is. You don't have to worry about getting abused. Some of the movements, they're going to be infiltrated. That's okay. But you're there on the scene. And remember, the way you learn is through experience. The way they get up on that stuff is get involved. If nobody gets involved in music, in the movement, the sound that they hear from the white man is that that's what they think, that that's what America is. That's what they say on the news. But if you're not in the movement, you don't know. But if you're in the movement, you can tell the truth. Can you look at the news and say, well, that's pretty good news today. Only 89% of it was a lie. Only 89% of it was a lie. There was a whole lot of truth came out of that news today. Shoot, man, by 11% of it, right? You can almost can you do that? You can almost take out almost the percentage. Hey, man, if you get a day, man, this was good news day. 90% of it, 10% of it was true, and it all wasn't all in one line. You had to pick the 10% out of all, right? If they get involved, then they pick up on that. They may not get the whole picture, right? This is a chance. Now, we have to phrase all of what we have that's digestible for them. So we have to, some kind of way, ease ourselves on these universities again, right? Where we can talk to the kids. And what they'll be hearing from us will good old America stuff. But the seeds in it will be movement. So all we have to do is get back around them a little bit. And we may have to tip our hat to Ridwan Jaka and them bums out. They're not bums, they're just brothers. But in a way they are bums, but that's okay. Just like the Chinamen do, oh, bossy, bossy. No, what do you think I did in South America? You would have laughed yourself to death. Because of the image people have, I'm running stuff down there, and the rest of the crew is white, except when I send for Negroes. And I would be standing there, all the white folks and their friends is there, and I would have a broom. I would be standing there with a broom. Because that's what they think of Negro. They wouldn't imagine, how would I be telling these white folks what to do? They're part of what I'm talking about. They ain't, but they're white. And I didn't incorporate them. They didn't run off from Canada. They're there, and of course, most of them police. But anyway, still, I'm running the show. But I'd stand there with a broom. And then, how you think I could slip through all of that? You're doing thousands of dollars worth of deals in Colombia. Your life is worth more, $20, because that's what a professional hit in Colombia in them days cost $20. I mean a professional hit, not no drive-by shooting. Professional hit cost $20 in Colombia. And I used to think, boy, you's a smart nigga. I tell you, boy, you just, but it's Allah got you ready to do something, and Allah protecting you. It ain't your behind, right? It's Allah protecting you for a mission. Okay. But in the same time, all of that stuff was a mixture of, not bossy, but it might as well have been the same thing. The Chinamans do it. Everybody, what do these people think about me? Oh, you're a Chinaman. Okay, then I'm a Chinaman, in order to get what I need to do, why argue with them? Now the Chinamen argue with them. You can't tell us what to do because they in pocket now, right? They in pocket now, but they wouldn't have did it. They had arguments or discussions on Chinese TV as recent as the last 4 or 5 years. Should they come out and express their Chinese ethics, morals, goals, or should they kind of, they was just saying it on TV. The white man didn't know what they just saying it. And he's so stupid, well, I guess he wasn't paying no attention. They talked about it openly, you know, CGTV, all of them, they were just saying it. And they got good TV, they got better TV than here because they have real stuff, you know what I mean? Anyway, part of the goal is to get our message out to the people. Structure, organization, and implementation. That's what we should do. So, whether it's China, Russia, Iran, all of those people, we have to deal with each one of them in a way that we have to some kind of way get the Chinese to the point that that they know they have had, they don't know it, or they don't act like they know it. They've had a loyal China-phobe here for like decades. You know what I mean? Taking their stuff, like they took the Russian stuff and changed it to Chinese stuff. We took the Chinese stuff. Chinophile, yeah, not a phobe. Yeah, Chinophobe is scared of China. A Chinophile. Yeah, because a phobe, Chinophobe, he's scared of Chinamen. Okay, Chinophile. Chinophile is one that's been studying their stuff in detail and respect all the moves that they have been making because they've been on their job. But also recognize that we have already, for what we've done, what they done, they outside of America. For what we've done inside America is as bad as anybody, I believe, in world history. Not that I'm bragging, but I believe we could stand up next to anybody for what they've done. We're inside of America with all America's eyes on us. Anybody know, and you can watch the move, the Zionists, 10, 12 years ago, they trying to destroy us in their media, right? You could see it. Abe Foxman and all that, they trying to play games. Even back 20 years ago, they put us on TV, them niggas would destroy themselves. That's what they was thinking. And every time they did something, it backfired on their behind, right? So we can't do that. We'll put him on Hannity, and Hannity is tough. He'll teach that nigga something. That's what they was saying. That's what everybody was thinking. I said, Hannity is a girl. Hannity ain't, you know. I said, Hannity is a girl. They're not going to put on what I said to Hannity. I looked over at Hannity. I said, boy, do you have drawers or pantyhose on? You don't see that on the thing. That's what I said to him. The people taking the thing, they know. I said, do you have drawers on or you got pantyhose on? In other words, is you a boy or a girl talking that mess? Right? They don't have it on there, but you don't see me on the white folks' TV no more either, because they come in here from Atlanta with all their channels, right? And then they gonna say what they're gonna say, and it backfires on them all the time. So they find out, they keep a note, hey, keep that nigga out of the news. Because whatever we do, he gonna turn it his way anyway. Like one of them said here when he was taking pictures of this, I said, no, go ahead. He said, so you believe that any news is good news? I said, yeah, anything you say, I'm gonna turn it to my way. That's what I'm telling the guy. It don't make no difference what you do. We don't care. But anyway, as far as structure, organization, and implementation, do we have time or do we have the ability to raise a cadre of people. No, a cadre of people already exist. They have the education, and they just don't have a mission. We have to convince their parents and them that you're stifling your own children by not giving them a mission. See, they don't know that they want their children to be American, right? But they want them to be the old American. What about putting your children up on the new America? Why not give them a chance to be a part of writing the future of America? They don't think like that. You think any of them people think like that? I mean, the Arabs, do they think like that, you think?
As you're talking, I'm thinking about, well, I was thinking about Linda so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody's been paying attention, you know, she's kind of been part of what's been going on in Louisville. So it's like, now that she's kind of part of the women's standing board
Mm-hmm.
because of the Farrakhan controversy,
Mm-hmm.
the anti-Semitism.
Right.
So it seems packaged. So now they started a new group. Her and the black girl.
Mm-hmm.
And they hooked up, this is going to your point about the cultural, they hooked up with this hip hop guy.
Right.
So it's like the people that you're talking about we need to reach.
Right.
I'm always under the impression that they're listening to us anyway and taking what we said,
Oh.
what you said,
Right.
and playing even with the people in black.
Of course.
You know, it's just clear.
Yeah.
So it's like now they put her in that position, you know, and you know, to be whether it's a symbol or whether it's to attract those particular type of people. So that's just what I'm saying.
No, what you're saying is exactly right. What you're saying is exactly right. We know that they listen to us. We know in detail because I could write something and set it on my table and just wait for a couple of hours and whatever it is, it's on the telex or teletype, whatever it is, and the crew they got for our community is going over it and strategizing. I try that all the time. I make sure I know what I'm talking about. But remember, there's one thing that's different. If we're the real thing and they're the phony thing. Right. Okay. So if we're the real thing, we give them the real picture. If it's necessary, we can force them. That's going to be hard because the big Negroes up in New York and all that, they're not going to give people the real picture. We force them to give a semi, you know what I mean? As far as they could go without telling them, do 1, 2, 3. Okay? We know what they're doing with them people. We know they're listening to us right now, but we have an advantage. We have the truth, and we have some ability. If we can't get in the house, we'll talk what we do. All what we've done, we've been practicing with care. Everywhere we go, this is all like practice runs. They're real. You see what I mean? When we go to a program, we talk about the sit-in, that's all real. But it's also practice for the other thing. Because our whole thing is training. The point is, that lady Linda Salsar, whatever her name is, it's okay. They can do what they want. But they can't stop us from doing it. And if we push hard enough, here's what happens. Sometime when you got a rebellion getting ready to happen, let's call it a rebellion or a transition, the sides separate. The bad guys kind of ease together, and the good guys, history pushes the teams together. Like history is pushing everybody together now on economy, on currency. So the good guys, the side we own, right? The side we own, you can see that they're going to win. The side we're on, China, Russia, we would have never thought of it decades ago. That's our team. We're on that team. Iran, they're covering the Middle East. In the New World, there'll be regions of power. Our crew in Iran, the war in Yemen will solidify sooner or later. The people, the Muslims, will solidify on teams. You can't stop them. They're either going to be on the Iran team or they're going to be on the Saudi team. The Saudi team got more money, and every time they've been around, they done used that money, and you could see fleets of white trucks, right, with the Salafis on them coming. How can you all afford all of them trucks from the same manufacturer, the same guy, and you're all loaded on them coming to do whatever you do, right? It's ridiculous, but it's Saudi money. How can everybody that could be something is all under the gun? Yemen is under the gun, but they're going to survive it. Saudis in 5 years have not taken them out, and they got all those zillions of dollars. They're going to survive. Iran is going to survive intact with Allah's help, no matter what they do. All right. Lebanon is in a lot of trouble, but they're still going to survive. Because when Iran kicked back in, right? And you can't take Iran out because they got China with them now. You can't take them out. You could hurt them a little bit, but you can't take them out. When they win the election, and what's the name? They're going to still have to cut the, what's his name? Biden said, I'm going to reinstate that JCPOA, whatever it is. Okay. Even if they don't, it don't make a lot of difference, but it make a little difference. We are already on the right team. Now, as the world is going through their changes, we got our responsibility here, right? This is not a fun assignment for if the people wanted an assignment, oh, you mean for Islam, for love and peace? Hey, I'll take Sri Lanka, anywhere you got, I'll take that. You know, the ambassador, I'll be the ambassador over there. How about up in the mountain, anywhere, but not America. America is our responsibility, and we raised for it. Proof of it is we're already here. Nobody even thought about getting here. No black movement, no Muslim, and all of those people have been used against us. Why don't none of the brothers, you can read, we got letters from the black movement, oh, you're a great guy, oh, you did this. You could see they write to you, probably already. Why they never say nothing? They're in exile and they got a name. Why they don't say, this guy here, he hooked us up. They say it to you, but why they don't say it to everybody else? You got to think about that. Why do the black people that's still in exile, when they come over here, their wife and their relatives do not come to visit me, and I'm the main Negro from there. What about the brothers that came out of Penn? We all know their name. Why, if the first person they meet coming out is me, and I'm apologizing, man, I was big before and I had big money, but this is only a few grand I got to help. Why is all them other Hotep niggas that was part of the New York 21, since they're 80, 89, when they get out of the penitentiary, why is it we've been sitting right there waiting for them to get out and trying to offer, this is going on, that's going on, this is a little money, it's not much, da-da-da-da-da-da. Why they don't ever say nothing? They didn't came here before. They'd come here with Najee and other people. Why did Najee and them? He had all the people, the Soledad brothers was all my friends almost, except one. Why he have everybody on the thing, on the Black August? I said, Black August, that's my homeboys. Why you don't have the official lad that know all of them, right? Why we just, you was there, you lived through it, and you was there when all of that. If you was there on all of the stuff they talk about, why they don't ask you to come, WPFW right down the street? Why are you not there? Everybody knows what the hell is going on. And ain't nobody saying nothing. Right? I mean, this is clear. Everybody knows that I'm not making up none of this. This is all clear. Everybody knows that Oakland was the only city in the United States. And there's enough people that's still alive that remembers all of that in detail. And whatever we say here, they will put another 50 or 100%. They will say it was bigger than what we say here. They say, oh, no, shoot, that ain't nothing, man. That was big. That was serious. They just didn't know what it was. They didn't know that it was part of a movie. All they saw, man, we were getting money. Man, niggas getting money hand over foot. And we were living in houses out on, you know, and you could do this. That's all they knew. Because you couldn't tell them, well, this is Black Economic Enterprise Zone, and we're following the principles of Malcolm X. And that, right? They wouldn't even want to hear that. Nigga, we don't care nothing about no Malcolm who? Malcolm, we don't know that nigga man to get everybody killed. Right? They would, what I'm trying to say is, it don't make no difference. We done got this far. Now, the next step seems to be, okay, as far as a strategy, I'm not saying we can't because I don't want to say, but usually the numbers would not be, the time and the numbers, things is moving so fast that possibly it would be quicker and better for us to work with what they already developed. They could not have developed them, the parents, if they followed our strategy. See, we believe that they were produced for us, because if their parents would have followed our strategy, they wouldn't be able to build these 3,000 centers around America. And we knew that all the time, and that's why so now, do we need all of them? No, we don't need all of them. We just need a human movement. And I believe their heart is clean enough that if they heard enough of it and heard it in the right way, that's part of our next move. For our own self, clean up all the stuff we have around here and do it on a regular basis. And then the youngsters, to give them a mission, an evolutionary mission. And the first stage is simple. Just join everybody and participate in all the groups, because you know on the campus everybody is semi-conscious and they're active. Don't worry about it. When they get off campus, they ain't got no more, right? They're going to lead a revolution on the campus. But if they get trained there, the training will teach them, but also the vision. What should they tell the other students? That there's a better America that's possible. It's all very simple. This is America we've had. Slavery, suffering, death, Jim Crow, Jane Crow, all of that stuff, immigration bill, this and that and other. It's simple. What kind of world do we want to live in? Same thing we say, right? Let them start the dialogue. Everything else takes care of itself. The dialogue. They're educated. We just drop a few points here and there and let things run. Everything, they'll get challenged by the society, and then they'll have to answer the questions. It's like if our children do dawah. If they do dawah, they just do dawah. Don't worry everything else, because you're going to get challenged. So you have to study, you have to research, you have to be sharp. You can't tell these niggas out here, well, there's one God and da-da-da-da. Well, you got to have to prove something to me. So they got to get sharp, right? Y'all have to get smart. You can't go just telling the Negro, yeah, man, this is Islam. And then the Islam that we're pushing. For Muslims, it's one thing. For non-Muslims, it's another. For non-Muslims, it's sobriety, no drugs, no alcohol, family, right? Don't worry about answering all those questions about Descartes and Spinoza and all those, right? There is a God, it's one God. Don't use up your time, right? Because the kids, some of our kids go to school right now, they take them backwards. They said, and you have well, we got to question this. I said, yeah, you can question whether, you know what I mean, water boils at a certain degrees and temperature, but you don't question whether there's a God. You explain to them why is a God, right? Yeah, you don't have to, we ain't gonna question that, but we're gonna show you why. Because you already know, right? Shahada, everything they learned on 5 principles of Islam, all that, just tell them the niggas that. But also tell the people, for all the problems that you have, see, the simple thing for the Negro is, okay, we have drugs in our community. Huh? You just keep praying and fasting, don't worry, that'll go away. You have alcohol, the same thing. Drugs and alcohol produce what? You beat your wife, you beat your children, right? You don't have no money, right? Solves all of those problems, because as a Muslim, you save your money and you do this, that, and other, right? So Islam is like the old flower, are you a slave? You know what I mean? That type. It solves the problems of the people. We're not trying to make saints out of them, but we're telling them, hey, you accept Islam, this is what goes along with it, and take your time. It ain't no hurry, right? So, for the people that's already Muslims, they have helping their family and friends and the masjid be more confident about Islam. For the dawah they doing to the other people, oh, it's just this, and if you're a Muslim, it helps this and it helps that. It's like a medicine. That's what they call Ash-Shifa, a medicine, a tonic for all the illnesses. So that's what we're presented as. And as far as Ms. Sausar and the other people, one thing we know, it was clear. Remember when we was downtown last time and the people walked by, the Black Lives Matter people, they didn't even, when they looked at us, it was at a snarl. and they walked right on by. They didn't even speak. They didn't even speak, and they went on up there. And that ain't new. Somebody told them we was already down there, and they turned the music up whenever we would come, right? And when they having that phony fight out there, tell the truth. Didn't we embarrass them to where that's a phony fight. You jiving, that ain't even real, right? And they couldn't do it anymore. They had to, because it was so phony. They just shut it down. Yeah, they shut it down and said, forget it. It ain't gonna work, right? And then all the police are sitting there watching us, and we trying to tell them, so you don't know where you're gonna allies is come. But strategically, this is really strategic depth, because they didn't expect us to turn around and go after them. They expected us to wind up mad, angry, and isolated. Because that's what, if they did their research, that's what anybody would do. If they did this to them over and over again, if somebody left the car full of junk cars there for nothing, you'd be mad at them. Them niggas did this, them niggas did that. They said, thank you very much. We thank you for leaving that, because it's clear to everybody. We'll do a program on that. We'll walk around with the camera, and we'll say, this little poor little Volkswagen was just a good car. Now here it is, it's on flats, and this is how it got here, right? And we'll say, we'll send you, if you like, we'll send you a DVD of the people that did that to the car and charge me $400. This is a perfect running truck. I started up yesterday, it runs perfect. I said, but the freeze plug is not in there. Freeze plug, it comes out if your car freezes, if it's full of liquid, that's what it's for. But how can it freeze plug pop out when it ain't no liquid in the car? It's just ridiculous, right? And this van, this is a nice van, this is a good running van. We'll show them, this truck full of junk. And this bookstore, we'll show it to them as is. We'll show them the house as is. And we may even get up there, we said, this roof had holes in it that people put there, right? That people put there, and that's the easy stuff. But that's what we've been given. We've been given that. We're going to use that. So people can see it, they can like it, they can believe it, but it'll be there for them to see, right? No one expected us to survive this long and with this attitude to where we wind up with an arsenal of kindness, of optimism, and of humor. They didn't expect us to do that. But we wrote that out years ago, over a decade ago, and okay, we're in good shape. Now, and I'll close with this, everything is already tilted. We're already on the right side. We hope there's certain realities, though. Our allies either don't realize or don't appreciate what we're doing. You know, our allies, whether it's Russians, Chinamans, and all of that, you know, even Iranians, the ones back home do, but we have to get them the message that we've survived inside of the United States, survived, thrived, and developed our own counteroffensives and everything else. And we'll be able to carry on to the final conclusion, no matter what. But we are at a critical period, and it would help if there's a certain amount of support and consistency. You know what I mean? Because, for instance, if you got the bums always got new trucks I knew everything, right? Tell the truth. The bums, man, anybody, the bums right around here, whatever they build up to, when they go away, they going away and they done already did their job. Okay, if they're still here, they got the publicity, they got phony credibility, they got everybody singing their song. All of them. Can you imagine? That, I mean, I know y'all can imagine, but imagine now, other people can't imagine that. I could imagine somebody hearing 1 or 2 hour lectures. They said, that Imam Musa is out there. That boy is out there. I mean, you know, that's, you know, right? If they just were to stumble upon a lecture or two without having no history, because we can only tell, although as long as we take, it's still spotty. You got to get about, if you get 10 of these boys, you'll say, yeah, man, I got it now. Even 5 will get you in the kitchen, right? So just imagine. Do our allies know that there's somebody that ain't never given up on the struggle? Like they never gave up on their struggle, the Chinese. What about us? We never gave up on it, ours neither. And we with you. We was with you when it cost. We was with you when it cost. You talking about the long march, that was way back in the old days, you know. It wasn't no free ride, you know. And then for them to think that you can't do nothing, me and you, on our own, no way, without somebody else telling us, you know. No, I gave great lectures. I used to be part of the JCs in prison. And my friend was a rich Christian Arab, and he was one of my friends. He's the one that taught hypnotherapy to our class and everything, but I was teaching him how to do time. And I had him lifting weights and punching the bag, and he would say, we had discussions on discipline, like to stop smoking, is hypnosis better or is discipline better? Well, of course, in those days, I was in discipline. So frustration is frustration that they can. You float it out. I said, how you feel? Oh, I feel fine. I said, what you been doing? Oh, so I've been running with you and lifting weights. And anything else? Yeah, I've been hitting the bag. I said, how's the bag do with pin-up stuff? Man, that's right. It does. Feels pretty good. I said, you're doggone right. You punch that bag, you can put whoever you don't like right on that bag, and you can beat them to death, right? Okay, so he taught, he believed you want to quit smoking, you could just float out of it. And I said, the discipline of it, you know. So I shared some of his ideas, but I would be more on the disciplinary part of it. But in the meantime, he would say, or we'd go to class, we went to them classes together, JCs and all that, because technically he might as well been white, you know what I mean? Because his girlfriend was a big white model. He was one of them rich Arabs that pulled them big rich schemes. He was not a poor, you know, he was a rich Christian Arab from Palestine, and he was pro-Palestinian. I used to have him, I'll get back to the point. I would have him help me with my Arabic, but to this day, I don't believe he know Arabic. You know why? Because hell, he was just saying, and I would read it, and he'd just say, And I was thinking, well, he'd been in America this long. But to study with him, he was a big salesman. He gave me the best sales tapes you could ever have. His friend Gordon, which became a good friend of mine. Solar Sam, we was calling. He was teaching me about photovoltaic cells back in those days, in 1979, 80. Because we'd have classes. And Solar Sam was a guy that was in the penitentiary because he built houses that were super energy. He was up in Oregon and Washington. Was super, you know what I mean? They didn't let nothing out. And if you got 2 minutes of sunshine a day, that boy would heat you up the rest of the day. That's what he was in jail for. Because if the white folks, if they put the energy companies, right? Shell had him put in the penitentiary. You could read his case. We knew what it was. Everybody knew what it was. But we used to call him Solar Sam. He had a little diagram. And it was good. And that's all he wanted to do was build those kind of houses. The white folks didn't want him to build. Oh, no. We're going to rot you in a pen to you. So I used to go to those classes, and they was teaching me about photovoltaic cells and all that, and this is how. And I'm thinking, well, I'll go on and learn this. But now I hear on the news photovoltaic cells. I said, man, they taught me that stuff 40 years ago. You know what I mean? But anyway, about these ideas and about being associated with up-to-date news and up-to-date information. As a society moves forward, they think a lot of times that we can't do things for ourselves. So I'm gonna just say this is what I meant to say. We was having a class one day, and what you was gonna do was give a talk on the principles of the JCs, stuff like that. So, you know how Negroes is. I was the last one. They gave me a thing on the principles. I incorporated all the principles. This is on brotherhood. Brotherhood is this, brotherhood is that. And the hood of a car gives you protection and all that. So brotherhood, they said. So he told me, he said, they think somebody is coaching you. The other white people. He said, they think, he know how white folks think. And we're good friends. He said, they think somebody's coaching you. They don't think you figured it out yourself. He knew I did, but he said, they think somebody's coaching you because, he didn't say your people, but he could have. I wouldn't have been mad. He could have said, everybody knows that niggas can't think like that unless somebody tell them. Communism, socialism, transition, niggas don't have enough sense to know when they're oppressed. Just because you're hanging them, burning them alive and killing them, hell, why would they want something different unless somebody come from somewhere else and tell them that, hey, you guys are being murdered and lynched and hung right? Can you imagine? That's what they think. That we ain't got, boy, I'm telling you. So anyway, we can fly under that a lot, which we do. We fly right under that, slip right up on boss man because he's arrogant and he don't think niggas. We whoops boss man up close just like Japanese was doing, just like Chinaman doing. Oh, bossy, bossy. We whoops him all the time. The proof is we're here. So anyway, I don't want to wear y'all out. But the thing is, we just want to wrap up some of the things we're doing. This is in our next phase. The reaching out to the youth. And the maybe Tuesday, we should have our meeting like where we don't record anything. We just think about the things that we could do and do a meeting analysis of what, all of us just get involved a little. I'll have an outline of a little bit of, I think those introductions of our supporters, which are y'all, would be good to do because people could hear from somebody else. You know what I mean? Instead of me, like I'm telling them all this, that's a good nigga, that boy, but he be stretching out. But you know, to somebody to verify, no, I have seen this. I have, you know, everybody do whatever they think in their own words. So we should do a few of those things. And that'll do for now. So in the meantime, we'll get on our little busy stuff, and we're going to do our daily work schedule, whether the white man like it or not. I don't care what he put in the food. All I do is, like I was doing from time to time, I won't eat nothing unless I go to the store and buy it myself and eat it at the store. Right? Eat it there, and then I can't do nothing, right? All this stuff is too simple. And if it combines wrong, so the white man gave me a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'll combine new types of enemas with maybe sometime I'll try some ginger or something. You know, I got all kind of stuff I can try. I have fun with it. Learn stuff. That's how you beat the white man. You just learn. It's a learning environment. And what we said, and I'll close with this, that we'll be able to learn in public. Right? That's what we're doing. We're talking in public, but we learn in public. We're learning in public. And this is something that very few people have to where they want to share their, this is my personal life. Well, sometimes you ain't got no personal life. This is your life, It's your life, my behind. Allah give you that to survive it, to tell everybody else. And I'll close with this, because As-Sabiqun are either those who show the way, which we're in now, and if necessary, those who lead the way later on. Whichever way, we're prepared. We're prepared to show the way right now, because that's what we're doing. This talk is showing people what it is. They don't have to do nothing. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. We didn't mean to just talk, but that's the way Boss Man is sending it. All right, any questions, any comments? No, well, just since we got, yeah. Good.
One brother said, "This man is the truth. You are a troll."
Right.
I don't know. You know what a troll is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't make any difference. You know, like, you got to remember, they play their part too. They play their part too. And sometime Allah send you something. This proves your rehabilitation. Which book is that you got?
AI superpowers, China, Silicon Valley, and the New World Order. I was trying to find something they had talked about
Chiang Kai-shek.
And it referred, no, that's the one you said, it doesn't matter if it catches.
Yeah, Deng Xiaoping.
It mentions something like that in it.
Right.
And, so I was trying to find it. But,
Right.
It was just interesting. I got people, I was like, man, this is exactly what.
No, but okay. Now remember, I'm not bragging. But if I was, you probably listened to some of them, like this Kishore Nurabani, all those kind of people. Yeah. When I listen to those kind of people, ain't none of them out in front of me. None of them. I don't care. Some of them have some interesting things. I learned from them. Some of them, like Rudd, whatever his name is, he was ambassador, a big shot down in Australia. They have some interesting points. And when I listen to them now, it's like listening to people who are, the best I can give them is their contemporaries. They would be contemporaries. I mean, the baddest ones, all these big shots that are really, everybody want them. You're the one that wrote this book on this. You're the one, okay? To us, those people are contemporaries. So I don't have to do as much research as I used to. I can listen to them, and I cut out, because some of them are going to be really telling the truth. Some of them have to tell the truth to write them books and stuff. But I have not heard none of them say anything that was beyond,
I can actually, and it goes to what you say we need to do. I listened to him for a while, but I can actually say I've heard that before.
right.
Years ago.
Right.
That's always been my the way I analyze it. I'm gonna filter it through here.
Right.
So whoever it is, I can say, well, I've heard that. So this isn't new, and I know I feel the same way.
But see, no, we got to influence a lot of people. Like, for instance, the great motivational speakers. Their historical thing has been motivating people on visualize big barrels of money. Visualize, we got to get to them and say, now, y'all did a good job on that. Y'all got everybody motivated on. But how about thinking? See, we have to influence as many, getting them think. All of them, approach all of them, either individually or collectively. Hey, how about this new world? You see where that is already. Is that where it's going to stay? Or can you improve? So we hand them the approval. Can you evolve to where now you tell the people, or you share with the people this new possibility, this beyond just money. Maybe money is included, but a new world to make them think. And some of them are motivational and they're positive thinkers. Hey, the nigga's right. You know what I mean? Let's try it too, or even if it's a few of them pick it up to where that's the new fashion, that's the new trend. It's how to make a better world. See, where this is like a dance. We want to share this dance that everybody like with everybody, where they can all learn how to do it. We want all the white folks to learn how to do the twist. The twist came out of Hank Ballard's and the Midnighters back in 1955, but by 1961, Chubby Checker had all the white folks doing the twist, right? And they thought he made the twist. They would swear Chubby Checker, made the twist. And okay, so it's the same thing with this. And it's also the same thing with Negroes, with imams, with all of these people. If we have to encourage them or in a way to say the things that we've always said, it doesn't make no difference who get the credit. You know what I mean? For this. That's the key. For them, you get the credit. So we may have to urge them, man, if you do this, you're going to get all the credit for doing it. Is that right? So they might go, so who cares, right? Is who cares, right? Anyway, are there any more?
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So did you? Yeah, you could turn it off.